So let's move towards the delivery part. First with part of the post-production process is editing. Now again, we'll get to Imagine, but pre-Imagine, let's say, what is one
Yeah.
thing that you have done that you do for your editing that has saved you time?
Well, I will say Imagine has changed it because I feel like a lot of what I did do before Imagine is probably quite different now.
Hmm.
Um, I used to run like portraiture over all of my images in Photoshop as like a
Hmm.
droplet or like an automation basically, and I would run it on
Yeah.
all of my images, and that was really, really helpful. I feel like it's going to be hard for me to not talk about Imagine because it has completely changed my entire um, like post production and editing workflow. What can I say about that? I guess
In
one of the
portraiture, you were doing just like light skin smoothing, or was it like a bunch of additional edits beyond skin smoothing?
so I used like the actual plugin that you can purchase, and then
Hmm.
it was light skin smoothing, like an eye enhancement, and I toned it way down. Like I don't know if you've ever
Hmm.
used like the
Yeah.
actual portraiture. It's
Yeah.
very it can be very intense,
Yeah.
which is not really my style. So I kind of had it apply and then dragged it down to like 60% intensity,
Mm.
um, and then I would export all of my images from Lightroom, and then I would run all of the finished images through that to give like an overall skin smoothing and an overall sort of enhancement. The thing that I found that was really helpful is that it made it so that I didn't have to do individual masking on photos. But as you know, if you've used it, it doesn't work well on every single photo. So, I was applying it on images that didn't necessarily need it,
Mm.
or I didn't like it how it would apply on every photo. But by the time I was running it through, 800 images, I'm not going to go back and be like, oh, I'm going to re-export those photos through Lightroom. Like that wasn't happening for me.
Right.
But
Right.
it did save me a lot of time pulling images from Lightroom into Photoshop individually. So that was like a really big time saver. And I still really like that software or service. I plug in. I don't know what we're going to call that
Mm.
one specifically, but I did really enjoy it. Um, yeah, honestly, I did use post like I prior to Imagine, I used to outsource all of my editing because I just
Mm.
couldn't keep up with it. So, I pre-pandemic was shooting like 50 to 60 weddings a year, a few hundred family branding portrait sessions. Um, the time was just not there for me to physically sit down and edit
Right.
photos
Right.
myself. So I've tried everything. I've tried like an individual editor sitting in my studio beside me asking me questions, which is a really great way for me to actually train someone. I've
Yeah.
tried, I've tried every single outsourcing service. I think I said this on our live roundtable.
Yeah.
If it exists, I have tried it. I could tell you
Right.
stories about all of them. I won't, but um, but I've tried them all. They all have similar problems, and a few of them have good things. Um, and and in the end, it was what was available to me at the time, and it worked. And obviously, I delivered my clients' images using them, so they were fine. Sometimes I would still have to go back and completely re-edit things, so that wasn't like
Oh
super
boy.
stellar.
Yeah.
Um, as anybody who's ever used an outsourcing company knows that sometimes you get things back and you're like, awesome. And then the exact next day, you'll get a wedding back and you'll be like,
What
who
happened?
did this? Yeah.
Right.
Did you edit this in
Yeah.
the dark? And then you edited
Right.
the other half in a bright orange room? Like,
Yeah.
how did this come back to me like
Yeah.
this? So,
I mean,
um,
I like to say that, like, there's a lot of fantastic human editors out there. I mean, as you've experienced, you can get one back that's just good to go.
yeah.
But one of the advantages or disadvantages rather of a human editor is not only just the environment and the lights and at that exact moment, but also the emotional state of the person at the time that they are editing your photos. If they're
So
in a
that's
bad
why,
mood,
yes. Yeah, that's part of the
oh,
reason why I wanted to remove the editing from my hands.
mhm,
So, being the person that has worked with that client from the start, then being the person that shot their session for them, has gone to back it up and all of that, and then is getting the emails from them after the fact. I don't want to be emotionally tied to some of those sessions while I'm editing them either. You can imagine all of the different ways, like most of my clients are amazing. During the pandemic, I did not want to edit most of my clients' sessions because I was like scarred by them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
truthfully, in where we live in Ontario, up in Canada, we were locked down for longer than anywhere in the world at one point.
Yeah,
So like with like a full lockdown where I wasn't able to work, we were locked down for a really consistent amount of time, which led to a lot of really serious struggles between photographers and their clients. And I understood their perspective. I got it. I would be really frustrated dealing with the things that they were dealing with as well. But it's also really hard to have somebody breathing down your neck and like fighting you on money and arguing with you on rescheduling, and then be like, let me put my heart and soul into your editing. It's hard. It's
right.
truly
Yeah,
hard, right? So
yeah,
I felt like I was doing them a better service by me not being the one to touch every single photo in their gallery. I'm still going to do the final process of going through every single one and making sure that they're all polished and ready to go. Um, but some of my clients, I was like, I think that you'll like it more if I'm not editing this with my
yeah,
emotion behind this right now. So yeah,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
totally right. Like when you remove the human component from it, um, there are certainly challenges by removing a human from an editing, system. But so far what I have seen in doing that is far more upside than downside.
awesome.